and welcome back to another video. Before I get started, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment, share it with anyone who you think might benefit from the video, and yeah, I think that's about it. So let's get started with the video. So for today's video, it's going to be a little bit of a touchy subject. At least for myself, it might not be so hard for you all to listen to, but I'm just making this video so you have something to connect to if you've ever felt anything about what I'll be talking about in the videos, so you can, kind of know that you're not alone. So for today's video, I'm going to be talking about my struggles with my identity, and not necessarily in the sense of like sexuality, because I don't really have any questions about that, but more so in terms of like my race and like my experience with that growing up and insecurities and things like that. So I guess we'll start with my parents. So my parents are Mexican American. My dad was born in the US, and then my mom was brought over to the US when she was a year old. And so they basically grew up here in the US, and so they are bilingual. They speak both English and Spanish. And so when we started in school, we started off in the Spanish program, and so we would speak Spanish in school and at home, and we only knew Spanish, I think maybe for the first 5 years of our life, and then little by little my parents kind of realized that we needed to know English, and so they thought it would be better if like in school we would study English, and then at home we would talk Spanish and everything like that. And I remember struggling with the language, like struggling to learn how to read or like things like that, and I always felt like Spanish was a little bit easier, a little bit more straightforward, in a sense, because like when you're reading Spanish, you just read it like you kind of sound everything out in a sense. And so I remember that, and then my mom used to also record us a lot, and we would sing like songs that they would teach us in school, like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and like I don't know, random other songs. And looking back at it, me and my sister found it so funny because we had pretty heavy accents, because we were still learning English, and it was just the cutest thing. It was really funny, but like I don't remember having an accent. And as we like got older, we started losing the Spanish because our friends in school would talk English, and then we would come home and our parents would understand us if we spoke in English, so we didn't even try to speak Spanish anymore at that point. And eventually it got to the point where I knew I couldn't speak it fluently anymore, so I didn't want to speak it at all. And I know my parents would get so mad because they really wanted us to be bilingual. Like they were like, you can't have the nopal on your forehead and not speak Spanish. And basically what that means, if you don't know, it's like you can't look Mexican or Hispanic and not speak your language. It's kind of like an embarrassment in a sense. And I knew that. I kept it like in the back of my mind, but like I just didn't want to speak it because I thought I spoke it funny, and I thought I was gonna get made fun of, especially because we did go to predominantly Latino elementary school, and so everyone there, or at least majority of the students, did speak Spanish, and they spoke it fluently because they were first generations here. Like their parents only spoke Spanish, so they didn't have the luxury of speaking English at home. Or at least like not to their parents. And then like little by little, I guess I started like forming these ideas that like those who spoke Spanish, like because they also struggled to speak English, that they weren't that smart. And so I was like, oh, if I speak English, that means I'm smart. And so I just like didn't want to speak Spanish at all anymore. And and I thought that those that did speak Spanish would be dumb. It doesn't make any sense, I know, but like as a kid growing up, that's kind of what I thought. And so like as I kept getting older and things like that, like I didn't want to be associated with being Mexican. And like I wanted to be as American as I could. I thought that would make me look cooler and like I don't know, like I'd just be smarter or something, like look smarter. And that's totally not the case, but like I just, you know, I feel like I don't know where I got the ideas from, but I thought that being Hispanic meant that I was dumb. And once I got to like high school, I was around like a more diverse group of students, but like the ones that were more successful were always the white ones, the white privileged ones, the ones who came from like families with money and things like that. And so I wanted to be like them. So I was like, okay, like, yeah, like they don't speak Spanish, so they only speak English. And you know, I would try to like also like buy the same brand clothes that they buy, or like the same brand shoes. And then quickly I realized that I can't afford that, and my mom was not going to spend $80 on shoes, $200 on shoes, $300 on Uggs. Like she was not going to do that, and she would laugh at me. And you know, I still didn't want to associate or like even think that I was Mexican, because like they were still never the brightest. Like they would never be looked at as the brightest, or at least in my head, you know. That's like I always thought people were judging us, people, you know, thought we were dumb. And so I didn't want to be Mexican, I wanted to be like white. And I think it was more towards the end of high school where I'm like, wait, this is dumb. Like I'm obviously not white. I obviously don't have blonde hair, blue eyes. Like I can't be something I'm not, and I can't just keep like rejecting my roots and ignoring, you know, who I am and where I come from and who my family is. I guess also growing up too, along with being Mexican comes like certain features, and you know, sometimes some Mexicans have bigger noses, or and like for me, I know like I've always had like really hairy arms, and I was so embarrassed growing up. Like, you know, I would always want to wear like long sleeves or like long sweaters, because like I was just so self-conscious of my arms. And like I remember like wanting to shave it, and I was like scared, because I was like, what if it grows back even thicker? Like I was like, I'm just gonna look like a gorilla and like stuff like that. And so like that was also another thing that would contribute to me thinking like, you know, being Mexican was bad. It was a bad thing. And it's, you know, now I'm used to it, and I'm like, okay, it's whatever. Now if people want to make fun of me for it, I don't care. But as a kid, like, you know, if like a boy you like saw your arms and they were hairy, then like you would think that they wouldn't like you and they would never want to talk to you or something like that. But now it's not the case. I have Leo and he loves me. And so little by little I started embracing it, like embracing, you know, my family's past, my family's background. And I think once I actually got into college was where I was like, okay, like, no, we are smart, like we're doing great things. There's like Latinos in whatever area or field, career, and they're doing amazing things. So like I can be myself, I can be Mexican, I can speak Spanish, and I can still be a badass. And so I think it was throughout college where I started embracing more like being Mexican, and I started traveling. And so like, and I went to like Peru and Nicaragua and stuff like that, and I think that was more where I started practicing my Spanish, because obviously that's all they speak over there, so you don't really have an option either. And so like I would still practice my Spanish like with my grandma, or if I like ran into some random Hispanic outside, like either at a job or they needed help. If I was just like, I don't know, walking anywhere, like I would try to help them too. And my Spanish still wasn't that bad, like, but I just felt like I had an accent. So once I started learning that, you know, some people here in America only speak Spanish, and like I started learning more of the importance of it. You know, I started trying to like practice it more in a sense, and like in college I did take some Spanish classes. In high school too, I took Spanish classes, and so I was like little by little still practicing it and still trying to actively learn it in a sense. Um, and I think it was more until I started working in a Spanish speaking clinic where I like really had to solidify the Spanish skills, and like I really got a chance to in a way perfect it, because everyone there speaks Spanish, and so you have to speak it. And even if you struggle, they know that you struggle, and like it's okay. Like patients try to work with you, and I know I've had a couple patients be like, oh, like te pareces como a mi hijo, like he's always forgetting the words, or like he forgets how to say this, but like they try to help you too. And we meet each other halfway in a sense. And yeah, and so now I think after, you know, volunteering slash working at the clinic for the past year, my Spanish skills have improved a lot. Like I'm able to hold a conversation longer than I was before. Like before, I think I was more so good at small talk. So like if somebody would come and say hi to me, like I could say hi, like que tengas un buen día, or like igualmente when you're like walking away from like paying for something at the corner store or something like that, like, and they would say like, oh, que tengas un buen día, and I was like, oh yeah, gracias, igualmente. Like I could like sound pretty fluent when I said like small phrases, but then when it would like come time to talk and have full-on conversations, I would be like, yeah, ¿cómo se dice? Like things like that. But now working at the clinic where, you know, I'm forced to speak Spanish every day, for the most part, unless I'm not working. Now, like, I can hold longer conversations, and I can ask patients about symptoms that they're feeling, or like, you know, I could talk more fluently now. And with all the Spanish courses that I've taken, like I could read it and write it. But now I think I've learned to embrace my Mexican culture. Like now, you know, I don't mind walking around with like, you know, colorful attire that like represents the Mexican culture. But like before, as a child, like I know my mom would want to put me in like those bailes florcóricos, something like that. The folkloric dances and the Aztec dancing, and I would never want to do those. Like I thought it was so embarrassing, and now I look back and I'm like, I wish I would have spent more time doing that. Like it would have been so cool to know those dances and like understand more of like my roots and like where I come from and things like that. And yeah, and I like these stories are more so not to like to ever make anyone feel bad of like where they come from or anything like that, but like just know that it's okay if you once upon a time felt embarrassed to be who you are, but like learn to embrace who you are. You know, you can't be anyone you're not, honestly. And I think now as like I'm getting higher in my career and like higher education, like now I'm more proud, and now I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm a badass, and I'm gonna represent now. Like I'm gonna represent my people, because you know they're proud of me as well. And yeah, I think that's kind of where I stand in terms of like my identity. Like I'm proud to be Mexican, Mexican American, and there's still a lot of struggles that I feel like, I know like in the Selena movie there's like a scene where the dad is like, no somos de aquí ni de allá, like you're kind of just like, you know, a mix. We're not American, but we're not Mexican, like we don't really understand what it would be like to live in Mexico and like have all the cultures, but like we also don't really understand what being American is, and we're just like a mesh of the two. And so I think that's pretty cool, and I think more people should embrace that. Like whether, like you don't have to be Hispanic, but like you know you could be Nigerian, you could be Polish, like. But I feel like it's really important to hold on to your roots and where you come from, so you can better understand people, and especially if you're in the medical field, it's important because you're gonna have patients from like a variety of races and ethnicities, and if you're two, you get to help twice as many people in a sense, because you can understand the culture and people from America, but you can also understand the culture and people from Mexico or wherever your other country or wherever you are from. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so if you've also had any struggles with like your appearance or your background, like comment down below like what your struggles have been and how you've been able to overcome them, because I think it's really important for other people to, especially the younger ones, the younger kids who maybe haven't come into terms with like how they look and they still struggle. It'll be important for them as well. And I hope you liked this video. Hope it's not too long. And yeah, if you want to see more videos about like my personal life and stuff like that, comment down below. Yeah, because I've been like fixing my apartment now, so I could do like an apartment tour if you guys would want to. Or I do love cooking and baking, so I could also do other tutorials on that. You guys already know I like doing my makeup, so if you wanted to see more makeup tutorials, we could do that too. And yeah, I think that's about it. So I'll see you guys next time, and again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it. Goodbye!